It's noon on Saturday, and unfortunately, not the type of update I want to bring. There's a lot of guys in the infirmary, and a few changes happening to the Canadiens lineup tonight. Let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Costa here from PuckTalk Montreal, welcoming you to this afternoon edition, let's say, of PuckTalk Montreal. And of course, it's not the greatest news in the world when I have to give an update in midday, but it seems like it's only fitting that I do it because it's an important issue. Patrick Laine and Kirby Dach, the lesser of the two issues, they're out day to day with lower body injuries, hopefully nothing to do with their knees. But the larger issue is that Kaiden Guhle out for another 4 to 6 weeks because of a lower body injury as well. Now, there's no details given so far, but one would be safe to assume that it's possibly his groin. Before we go any further, let's talk about our partners, starting with InstaCustoms. They're your number one destination for custom apparel printing, rated the highest print shop in Canada with over 3,000 Google reviews, a 4.9-star rating, and they were nominated for a 2024 Canadian Business Choice Award. They print on all your favorite clothing, plus coffee and travel mugs, and yes, they even offer embroidery. Most orders are printed and shipped the very same day, and larger orders in less than 3 days with free shipping. Open 7 days a week, they're located on downtown on Stanley Street. Easy to remember as it ties in with the Habs' ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup. So whether it's for yourself, your loved one, or your business, trust InstaCustoms. Visit them in person or order online at instacustoms.com. We're also brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. Proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers, they deliver unbeatable value. You'll always get the lowest prices, plus same-day shipping, even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. With over 1,000 products to choose from, their selection is unmatched. CheapestTshirts.ca is the go-to source for businesses, events, apparel printing companies, and resellers, or just people looking for the best deals on everyday clothing. Plus, enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes ordering online a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at CheapestTshirts.ca. So there you have it. 3 injuries that impact the Canadiens right off the cuff this season. And if you think about it, it's kind of like Murphy's Law, isn't it? Montreal Canadiens off to their best start since they started the rebuild at 4-1. During the first few years of the rebuild, not too many injuries. At the beginning of the season, most of them were, other than the Patrick Laine injury last year, prevented. And guys came into the season relatively healthy. Well, that wasn't the case this year. We saw early on during the preseason that both Kaiden Guhle and Patrick Laine were nursing their groins. Noah Dobson as well. So, you knew that there was small little things that were wrong right off the cuff. And of course, as I mentioned when those were announced, if you don't nurse them properly, they nag and nag and nag until the point where you have an injury like this happen. Now, again, there's no guarantee as yet that it's Guhle's groin, but from the way he reacted and the fact that he skated off under his own power, to me, that indicates groin, especially because he was doubled over. Your groin injury normally happens just below the hips, and that's where you have most of the pain, around the adductor region, and that's kind of where Guhle was favoring. He was limping, according to sources. He was seen in Griffintown limping yesterday. So that fact just solidifies that, he's not on crutches, he's not wearing a brace. It looks to me like it's a groin. As far as Laine and Dach are concerned, we don't know what the situation is. Although both of them, we have to worry a little bit about their knee situation. I don't think Dach looked too bad coming off the ice yesterday. Of course, celebrating at the end of the victory after overtime was done. I'd be remiss to even think about what it might be other than his knee, but I don't think it is the knee because he looked to be moving fine. As far as Patrick Laine goes, you never know. Though his skating stride and the way he moves around the ice, he was moving well yesterday, moving fast, getting back on the back check in the defensive zone, getting up into the offensive zone, supporting his line mates. It didn't look like anything was really wrong. It's just this morning that it came out. So we'll see what it is. I mean, day to day, could be a day, could be a week. We don't know. But ultimately, it's minor. So that's the good news on that part. But what does that mean for the Montreal Canadiens going into tonight's hockey game? Well, very important and probably extremely happy is one Joe Veleno, who's going to get to start his Habs journey with a home game on a Saturday night in Montreal. It's what dreams are made of when you grow up in this city. Of course, I grew up in Montreal, right? So it's one of those things you always envision, scoring a goal at the Bell Center, having your name announced at the time, of course, because I'm too old, it was the Forum, but having your name announced over the loudspeaker by Michel Lacroix, listening to the roar of the crowd. Those are all things that kids nowadays envision and dream of. Veleno's going to get a chance to live that tonight. It's really cool. And chances are you may very well see him do, a lap on his own before the game starts, right? Seeing as it's his first game as a Hab. He's no rookie. It's not a rookie skate, but it's that level of importance for a guy who's trying to save his career. And he's probably most certainly going to have family in the crowd tonight, given that it's his first Habs game. So, it's an exciting time for him, but it's also a time for him to be very careful. Because he's going to be in the lineup for the first time, everybody's going to be watching him with a microscope. And it looks like Marty St. Louis has made a couple of changes to the lineup to help him with that. Along with Veleno, by the way, Owen Beck being called up on an emergency basis to come up and fill in for the injured Patrick Laine. So you've got Veleno at center, Beck on the wing. Now, the easy thing for Marty St. Louis to have done would have been to just take Beck and put him on the fourth line to replace Laine and have Veleno replace Doc at center on the second line. For lack of, there's no real line numbers here because the lines are pretty even. But that's not what he did. Instead, he made an educated decision to reunite his third line from last year, and that is Josh Anderson, Jake Evans, and Brendan Gallagher. Why is that? Well, given the fact that it's more than one player that's injured, it makes sense to try to create some familiarity and chemistry that you already know is there. You know that Anderson and Evans, they've been playing together since the beginning of the year. You know that they've got that chemistry. But also when you look at Gallagher can play up and down the lineup without blinking an eye. And the fact that he's got familiarity with both Evans and Anderson, that speaks volumes. So that line's going to be extremely solid tonight, especially against a Rangers team, as I mentioned in our preview show yesterday, where they've got a little bit of sandpaper on the bottom two lines, especially a guy like Rempe. You need to have somebody in there who's going to rough him up and push him around a little bit. That's why you need to make sure that fourth line is solid. As for Beck, he's going to be on a line with Zach Bolduc and Joe Veleno. That line interests me a lot because despite the fact that Veleno didn't have a lot of success in Detroit, we know that he's got skill. The same holds true for Beck. Beck looked good in the preseason, but the reason why he didn't make the Habs out of camp is because of the fact he didn't really push hard enough. He didn't look hungry enough. If he would have tried a little bit harder, given a little bit more effort, and tried to push the envelope, I'm sure he would have started the season in Montreal, probably ahead of Veleno. But that's not what happened here. So, Beck comes in. He's going to play alongside Veleno and Bolduc, and that line, given its youth and its speed, may very well cause fits for the Rangers. The rest of the lines, the first line, obviously, with Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky, that's remaining together. And the other line of Oliver Kapanen, Alex Newhook, and Ivan Demidov, that remains together as well. So you've got continuity between those two lines. You've got a young line that looks poised to make a statement, and you've got a veteran line that can do the job when called upon. Defensively, obviously, with Caden Gooley out, stepping up in his stead will be Arbor Xhekaj. He'll draw back into the lineup. Because of the injury, you're going to see Jaden Struble play alongside Lane Hudson a little bit more often. And I know all of you out there are going to say, yeah, well, the numbers look great for them last year. And I'm going to repeat what I always say. Numbers are one thing, the eye test is another. And here's the issue that I have with that line from last season and with that pairing, I should say, and last season. And that is the majority of their faceoffs and their presence on the ice started in the offensive zone. That limits the amount of defensive zone work that you have to do. And so I think the number, if I remember correctly, was about 71% offensive zone starts. That's a big number. So yes, the numbers are going to be skewed and you're going to look good from a defensive posture. But what happens when you play more in your own zone? That's something that the Rangers can actually do to you because of the fact that they play with speed and they cycle the puck well. Guys like JT Miller, they thrive in that type of situation. And in today's press conference, Marty St. Louis was asked about Miller and his progression from the time St. Louis played with him as a rookie in Tampa to today. And he obviously said that there was a lot of changes, and JT Miller's game is more complete now than it was when he first started with it in the NHL. So there's a lot that can happen tonight when it comes to the defensive side of the game. That's why I worry about them. I don't think they're incapable. That's not what I'm saying here. Struble has the skill set. Lane Hudson has proven that he's good defensively, right, when he needs to be. But when it's pressure over and over, one and done is one thing. We've seen Lane Hudson get in there, separate man from puck using his body and skating it out. That's fine. But when it becomes repetitive, it fatigues a player more than when it happens once in a blue moon. That could very well be the game plan that Mike Sullivan brings to the table tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. You may very well see him say, you know what, lean on Hudson physically. Put the puck on his side of the ice. Let's get on him real quick, and let's lean on him. See how quickly he folds. Do I think he will? No. But one thing that type of strategy will do is it'll limit Lane Hudson's ability to be more offensive-minded, right? So with the fact that Jaden Struble is there, and one thing that I've seen from Struble this year that I didn't see last year is his inability to make a good first pass out of the zone. Instead of trying to look for an outlet and move the puck up on the breakout as it's structured, instead he's chipping the puck off the glass and out to center. That's something I don't want to see the Canadiens do anymore. Because of the fact they need to attack the opposition in transition, chipping it off the boards out to center and giving it back to the opposition is not a smart strategy. So I want to see Struble take a little bit more time, show a little bit more poise, and move the puck to his options instead of just chipping it out and sending it out to center ice. If that's the only option you have because you're being pressured and because there's nobody around, that's fine. But that shouldn't be your go-to, and that's what I've seen from him so far. So I'd like him to change that. As far as Arbor Xhekaj is concerned, pulled out of the lineup for all the wrong reasons, okay? The goal with McCann, I don't care who the defenseman is. It could have been Lane Hudson. It could have been Struble. The puck hits you, your first reaction is to look for it, okay? And so the fact that he lost McCann while he was looking for the puck, if you would have stayed with McCann while he was looking for the puck and the puck was in his feet, it would have been interference. If he wasn't, well, different story. So I thought he was pulled for the wrong reason. Obviously, one of the reasons was to put Struble into the lineup. I get that. But Arbor Xhekaj is your physical deterrent. And he needs to be on the ice, especially against a physical team, especially the bottom six for the New York Rangers. So let's see how the injuries unfold tonight. Will the three people missing from the lineup have a profound effect on the Habs? The way Marty St. Louis has structured the lines, I don't think the effect is going to be as bad as it could be, but that all depends on the production of both Zik, Veleno, and Beck. If they can bring the heat and bring the offense, I think the Canadiens will be in good shape tonight versus the Rangers. See you during the postgame. And again, thank you to our sponsors, instacustoms.com and cheapesttshirts.ca. We'll see you after tonight's hockey game.